So Downton Abbey, the movie, is it's weird because like I haven't watched Downton Abbey in like the longest time, and watching this film was kind of like getting like how, like you go to a bar and they'll give you like a sampler, just like a whole bunch of shots. It's just like taking like a whole bunch of shots of Downton Abbey at once. It's like all the stuff you remember, they just deliver right back at you. It's like, oh, there's a royalty situation, there's a historic situation, there's romantic tension, romantic drama, there's concerns about the household, and just like sip, 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 sip. But the thing is, like you keep doing this, but then like there are all these other like subplots they mix into it. That there's a few that you take sips of, and you're just kind of like, ooh, that doesn't taste as good as I remember it. And the fact that you're getting it all condensed together, it's like, ooh, some of this doesn't hold up as well as I thought it did. So let's try to explain this best we can. Okay, so the central, I guess, kind of like core part of the story of Downton Abbey is that, it's 1927, and the king and queen are kind of stopping by for a visit to Downton Abbey. Now, this is huge news. It means, like, the king and queen are going to bring, their own staff. There's going to be a parade there. There's going to be a luncheon. There's going to be a dinner. They're going to be staying inside the Abbey. It's huge news for the town. It's huge news for the Gratham family. It's big stuff going on. So there's a whole bunch of crazy crap going on around this event. Probably one of the most prolific, and I'm glad that they focus on this the most, is that the house staff is a little bit pissed off that that royalty is bringing in basically their own staff to kind of like shove them out of the way. They have their own chef, they have their own footman, they have their own head butler, and they're just kind of like shoving everyone to the back. And so I love the fact that, all the servants are basically like, look, this could be our one chance to serve the king and queen. So let's just like lock them indoors and, send them off on like fool's errands. Let's just like push them off to the side and we'll take charge. And it's like, okay, this is actually pretty fun. I kind of like this angle. Especially when they bring back, they bring back pretty much like the entire cast here. They're all pretty notable here. I like the fact that they bring back Mr. Carson, who is essentially, he originally retired from being the head butler, but because they realized that Mr. Burroughs might be a little bit too, might have a little bit of cold feet about handling the situation, they bring back in Carson, once again played by Jim Carter, and he's always fun to see on screen. So he's in there to basically take charge and also basically get frustrated at the fact that his staff want to start an uprising. So there's some funny stuff that happens in here. And I kind of like this fact because most of the film that focuses around these events, like, it feels more like a comedy than it does kind of the melodrama that it used to be. And it's mostly because of the staff and their hijinks, which is a lot of fun. But then there's also like the added element of I'm trying to get all this together here. But then there's the added element of Maggie Smith. Maggie Smith is always a lot of fun. She's always so much fun to see on Downton Abbey, and she gets all the best and the funniest lines in this film. I love the fact too that like all the characters here, the kind of like upper class members of the Abbey, always seem a little bit ambiguous. Like they always seem like they're always focused on like the melodrama of this of this costumed period piece. That you're more concerned with their relationships in like a soap opera manner. I love the fact that Maggie Smith's character of the Dowager Countess of Gratham, I love the fact that she's just got like she's pretty much an antagonist and she doesn't care. So she gets in like all the best lines, she gets in all the most, witty and biting lines. She snaps at everyone. Like she has so many great iconic lines here. Like I think at one point someone comments on the fact that, oh, once again, the Dowager comes out with her saber and she's like, be lucky I don't own a saber. Anytime she's on screen, I had fun with her. Now, my biggest problem with Downton Abbey, though, with this film in particular, is that there's all these little subplots here that are based around the era and based around controversies that bring out the most drama in the film. But they're only addressed in like bits and pieces, and they kind of like fizzle out quickly before they can say anything. Now, I understand, yeah, this was kind of the format of the show. You briefly address, stuff like the politics of the era and, persecution of the era, and you don't really focus on it that much. But like I said, when you just take like shot after shot after shot of them, you're kind of like, ooh, it feels like there should be more here. It feels like there should be more to Downton Abbey, that they should explore more. That this is the final film. You would think they would explore more with these topics here. But again, maybe I'm just seeking more out of this film, and it's not all there apparently. But I mean, in terms of like costume drama, it's got all the fun stuff there. I mean, all that's there. I just felt like this film should be saying more with like topics of persecution and power structures and the politics of the era. It's like, maybe this is just me, but you know, my issue with the Downton Abbey film was I feel like it should have like addressed more, and it should have like, I don't know, it feels more rewarding. Like, maybe it's just because like I saw Ready or Not, which had like, you know, an attack on power structures, that this film's kind of like distancing from it seems a little bit off, that I kind of wanted to see like Downton Abbey like crumble to the ground. I'm not quite saying that I wanted to see Downton Abbey burn to the ground. I'm just saying there's a subplot where they break the boiler twice and kind of like sabotage it, and I was sure like I would have laughed and clapped so hard if the ending of this film was like the boiler exploded and Downton Abbey burned to the ground. I would have loved that. I mean, it's pretty much, look, the cast here is all pretty aged. It's pretty much assured this will be like the last Downton Abbey, at least film. I think I don't know how much of a following this has. It might return to theaters, but why not? Why not just go the whole hog? They clearly established that a few arcs are going to end in this film here. Like, stuff's going to be passed down, relationships are going to form, but there's so much going on here that I feel like the film doesn't have a lot of time to breathe. We can barely, like, there's several scenes here where characters talk about scenes that happen off camera that have affected them, and scenes where characters are affected by conversations and like talk of the era. It's just kind of like boiled down to just like the witty little bits here, because like I said, this is a cast of dozens of main characters, and we don't really get to cover too much about them, that a lot of them get reduced. And this comes with the part of, you know, reducing like the historical aspect to like fizzling subplots. Like, there's a whole subplot about wanting to assassinate the king and mentioning that, you know, there's contention with the politics of the area. It's addressed for like one line before that subplot ends. And this is my main problem, is that a lot of these like more controversial subplots, they start up and then they just get to that moment where they seem to be getting good, where they're really going to get into some juicy dialogue, and then cut it off. Like, there's another scene where like where one of the people of the Abbey goes to a secret gay dance club, and they are arrested by the police, and they only get out because of the connections they have. And then they start a little conversation about like, you know, will we ever be accepted by society? And it's like, maybe one day. And then that ends. There's another subplot where a seamstress is blackmailed because she's stealing silver from Downton Abbey. And she's blackmailed into working all night on a dress for the princess. And then when she's questioned about it the next morning, she says, look, this silver is worth, just one piece of the silver is worth more than I make in a year. So why wouldn't I steal it? And then the retort is basically like, well, you would have gotten found out. And then the seamstress is like, you know what? This conversation's pointless, so I'm not going to have it. And it's like, there's like a bit of like a bitterness to how these subplots end, where I feel like there's more here. Don't leave it on this note. But clearly they do want to get back to the costume drama, and the family bickering and the melodrama and all the different romances and connections. And that stuff is fun. I gotta admit, every time Maggie Smith was on screen, I had a lot of fun. Every time Carson was on screen, I had a lot of fun with him. There's some flat out funny moments in this film. And thankfully they focus a lot more on the funny stuff than they do on the drama, because I feel like a lot of the melodrama doesn't quite hit here. There are some genuine surprises. There's a little bit of a twist here and there. I did like the cast looks brilliant here. I mean, Maggie Smith always looks good. Jim Carter's always a lot of fun. I believe you have, I'm just looking down the list here. Imelda Staunton has a really good role in this film, and reveals quite a good twist here. It's just, it's a good-looking cast, it's a good-looking story, but there's, like I said, it feels so busy and so much is going on here that not all of it resonates, and all you're really left with is just, witty little bits of great lines delivered by a great cast. So on that level, I like the film, but I almost feel like the film could have said more for being another return to Downton Abbey. But essentially, look, if you like the show, you'll probably love the film for like the same reasons here. I just felt like, since a lot of this seems to be like an end of an era, there should have been a little bit more here. So for the Downton Abbey movie, 3 out of 5 stars.